What is going on, everybody? I am Bryan Hour.
And I am Jason Harper.
This is Keep It Current, a real estate show. The goal here is to help real estate professionals do better by providing high quality and hopefully actionable content. This week, we're going to do something fun. We are going to have a conversation, right, Jason? It's going to be kind of more conversational.
Yeah.
4 things that we wish we knew a year ago. And I know that sounds a little weird because this is sort of like a show where we're looking back, but I think it's going to be important to discuss these things. I know it's going to be fun to discuss these things. So if you don't mind sticking around, let's do this. My gosh, if you go back a year, it really seems like so many things we were just in the thick of it, the whole the COVID thing, and just like what's going to happen in the real estate market, and how do we make sense of it all, right? I mean, just think about just a year ago today.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's crazy how much has happened, not just in a year, but even in that first month, like how much our industry changed, and not just, I mean, whether it's on the mortgage side, the real estate, I mean, everything. It just kind of changed overnight, and I think a lot of it for the better. But looking back a year, I feel like real estate being a very cyclical type industry and business, I feel like in 5 years, a lot of the things we look back a year ago and say, hey, we should have done that, we will probably say in 5 years and 5 years after that. So I think there's some relevant stuff here, because some of the things we'll talk about today, I feel like you and I probably talked about a decade ago too.
Exactly. And I don't always, as we were talking about this backstage, and as we've been talking about this kind of off and on, I'm not really the kind of guy that goes back in time and says, oh gosh, if I would have known that, I always just try to just be forward thinking and just, keep my business growing and stay focused and not get lost in the minutia. But last year, things have happened and things have grown and things have changed so quickly in my business and your business as well, that I think it's just fun to kind of look back and go, my gosh, what if I just would have known these things a year ago? And so these things are kind of more personal. They're not necessarily, we're not going to ask you to take notes like some of the other, shows that we've done. If they're noteworthy, right? This is more of just we want to see if you guys can relate to this. I'm just going to start with the first one right here. It's going to sound like I'm, this is crazy, but if I'd have known what I know now a year ago, I would have bought another investment property for sure. We've been in that mode where we're wanting to buy an Airbnb. And my gosh, a year ago, Jason, all we could think about was, the market's going to plateau off a little bit. Things are uncertain. We know it's going to ultimately be okay, but we're just going to chill and just wait. Rates are really, really low, but we're just going to wait. That was kind of our thing. Mm-hmm. Well, as I look back a year from today, in the areas that we are searching, the market has increased by 21.5%. 21.5%. So
just so crazy.
You're pretty good at math. So we're looking at we're looking at roughly $1 million, right? For the properties we were looking at.
Right.
So some quick math there. Isn't that about $210,000?
That's pretty spot on.
That is literally
a chunk of change.
That's how much more homes are now in that price range than they were a year ago. And we would just, it's a damaging admission, but it's a fact. We're stupid. We should have just done it. If I would have known, if I guess there's no way we could have known, but now when we look back on it, it's just crazy. And it encourages me to just be more bold about the steps that we want to take.
I think for a lot of us, and I mean, you probably agree that, we went through that point of the market where values in a lot of areas, I mean, they were more than cut in half. I mean, I remember a house we bought a year before the market crashed, and we paid like 660, and that house went down to like 330. But today that's a $750,000, $800,000 house. And so I think, for those who have been in this long enough, there's a little hesitancy, I think, sometimes, because we look back at that time and what happened, and oh my gosh, is that going to happen again? And even though we preach to people, hey, we're in a totally different place as an industry, it is not the same. There's still part of us that are a little gun shy. But when I started in this business way back when, I won't say when, I remember being told right away, in the long run, real estate always pays off.
Right. That's right.
And I know a year ago when you started kind of toying with the idea and we started toying with the idea, we were in the same boat. We were like, maybe this isn't going to pan out so well in the next year. And here we both are.
Yeah. Yeah, but you bought one. You did buy one. You were going to buy another one. Tell them, tell the story about that one in Nashville.
Yeah. So, maybe
this is just in 1 year, you guys, in 1 year.
Yeah. So like 60 days after the whole COVID thing started happening, we started kind of keeping our eye for a second home out of state, and kind of narrowed down the areas we liked. At first it was states, then it was areas. Anyhow, there was a house, because I saved them all on Zillow. And so there was this house that I really, really liked that sold for $580. And it was crazy, as I didn't realize I still had it saved on my Zillow app. It popped up the other day for $720 and sold in like 2 days. So I'm sure it got, $730, $740, $750.
That's unbelievable.
It's crazy. So, it's like, well, what's going to happen in the next year? Maybe not that, but maybe that.
Well, I'm really encouraged to be a lot more bold in our decisions regarding that, especially because I'm taking a close, having seen what's happened in the last year. I know there's a lot of people that are out there thinking, well, this is not sustainable, and they're right. It has to correct.
Right.
But if you do look at what some of the large institutional buyers are doing, they are paying full retail for homes right now. They're not trying to get discounts.
Right.
And most of them, they're on a 5-year plan. And so when I look at a lot of, publications that we talked about, on our last show, there's a lot of great publications, news publications that realtors kind of use as their Bible, right, for things.
Right.
I read them all. So do you. And the general consensus is they don't really see a huge slowdown in the coming years, as much as 5 years. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of these large institutions do. So with that in mind, I'm helping a lot of my buyers get off the fence. Don't wait for it to slack, because it's not going to. All indicators say it's not going to. And for me, I can't slack either. If I really want to make this happen, I'm going to have to do it. So that was just what I wanted to share.
No, that's awesome. Another thing too to think about is kind of like the investment landscape is very different now. I mean, there's so many things in the past decade that have changed, like whether it's VRBO or Airbnb. We now have the luxury as a buyer where, if I buy a house and let's say I can't afford it or I don't like it, but it's a good short-term rental, we now have the ability, or a corporate rental, right? We have the ability to move out, profit, and either go buy or rent in the interim another home.
Right.
And so, that's the other thing we now have to look at. If you buy a house and let's say the market does change and it does drop 5%, but you can rent that property on a day-to-day basis for twice of what your PITI is.
Yeah.
That's still a good investment.
Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's totally different than what it used to be. So, I guess we should have bought two. You should have bought one or two. And whoever's listening, buy the damn property.
Just get off the fence, right? It's not very comfortable to be sitting on that fence like that anyway. The second one for me was, looking back a year and seeing where things have come and knowing what I want to do, my number 2 would be hire another assistant. We have a great assistant on our team. but we need another one. And we've been kind of hee-hawing around. I've been the one that's kind of been hee-hawing around. Things have just exploded and expanded so fast with the growth of the team, with the amount of leads that we're getting, with everything, that it's really, really getting difficult. And now we're scrambling. So now I'm scrambling for an assistant that we really need. And I literally should have had this person already a year ago. Yeah. I literally should have hired him a year ago. I should have moved on it quicker, because now I'm only now able to see how much it has crippled me in achieving my goals, which are for my wife and I, who, if you know, I'm sure everyone knows our team is run by me and my wife.
Right.
We want to get out of production. I want every opportunity to go to the team. And so we've been doing that over the last couple of years. It's been, we're trying to get ourselves to where we're doing 200 transactions a year and we're doing none of them. That's really what I want. I just want to really just keep the team, fat and happy. So, and there's no way we can get to a place where we can get organized in the next couple of months. Like, I'm never going to make my goal of this year being out of production. And it's because I didn't hire an assistant.
Why didn't you? What was your reason for waiting?
Why do you have to ask me that? Because I got to be honest, right? I think
that's what we're here to do.
I think it was fear. It was fear because it's the same. It ties in with, I didn't know what the market was going to do. We were doing well, but things were very uncertain with the whole COVID thing. And, I kind of felt like, I don't really need a person right now. And then also just being part of the brand and being at EXP, we have so much support in the cloud and so many other things that there's a lot of advantages to just being at EXP. You can scale things faster and bigger and better, and there's so much support. The senior partners that I have in my organization, they have incredible skill sets, right? So I just figured, I'm going to be able to rely on them more. I probably don't need an assistant, and a lot of that was true, but we still outgrew. It comes down to fear. I'm dancing around it because I hate to admit it, because I can't.
Hey, nothing wrong with admitting it. It is good to be honest. I heard a coach recently, like in the past week or two, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to butcher it, but he said something along the lines of, like, when it comes to an assistant, hiring where you want to be, not where you currently are. And I know for us, that's one thing I've often made a mistake on is, this business kind of ebbs and flows. And so it's like, oh, okay, we're behind because we're growing. Now we need somebody, or now there's that little bit of a plateau. And so do we really need that person? Whereas the mindset should really be hire somebody to where you want to be.
Yep.
But also that person needs to have the skill set to bring you to that place. And, which is really going to come from them opening up your ability to go out and generate, which is what you do well. I mean, honestly, if I asked you, that's my opinion. Maybe if I ask you what you think you do best, it might be a different answer.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the real estate transaction itself, I think your strong point is generating business. Yeah. You're really good at it.
Yeah.
And the more time you spend doing assistant work, the less time you have to do that.
Exactly. We all have, certain gifts and passions, in the industry. What I love about being in real estate is it offers there's so many facets to it, right? You can wear so many different hats. Well, the ones that are really successful just keep one hat on, and they don't juggle anything, because they stay in their lane and they hire an assistant to do the rest, or multiple assistants. What you just said there, I want to repeat because it was so good, and I've heard it before, but I'm going to repeat it because it was so brilliant. And that is you want to hire an assistant for where you want to be, not for where you are right now. You don't say, oh crap, I've got, 30 hours worth of work in a day. I need to get an assistant. You should be thinking about hiring an assistant when you have 30 extra hours in a day. You have all this free time and you want to get to the place where you're really slammed. Hire an assistant to start, doing all the Bobo stuff that they love to do. And it's not fair to call it Bobo stuff, because a good assistant is geared to do that paperwork and those things that you think are just atrocious. They thrive on it. They love it.
Yeah.
And so you hire an assistant to do those things, and it, like you said, it frees you up to do all the stuff that you love to do, which I know in your business, you're the rainmaker. In my business, I'm kind of that same thing. I bring a lot of leads and a lot of opportunity to our team, but I needed to do this a long time ago. So we will definitely be hiring an assistant, another assistant.
You have to, because you brought it up on
exactly, because people are going to be texting me. They text me all the time after these shows, right? It's like,
yep,
you better. And my coach, I know Andy is going to probably for sure be like, dude, I heard you say it. You need to.
I'll text him. I'll let him know. We're at 16:30 on time, so I'll let him know right around there. He needs to scroll and listen.
Exactly. So, all right, let's move into the third thing that we were kind of discussing about.
Yeah, which actually, when you and I were talking backstage, it's because you and I didn't share with each other what we were going to talk about. So it was funny. This one was really, really similar to you, and that was investing in not just a coach, but really somebody more so to help us strategize. Yep. Kind of like, this is what we want our business to look like.
Yep. And so for the podcasters that aren't seeing this right now, number 3 is invest in a business coach or strategist.
Yeah. Which is different than just a rah, you're awesome coach. It's also a little different than hiring, this isn't a person that's coming in and doing any work for our business. But so we were actually kind of in the same boat. We were bringing somebody who was really good on last, March, I think she was maybe going to start in April. Anyways, right when COVID hit, and I'll say what you said, and it was fear-based for us. We opted not to add her to the team at that point because we had no idea what was going to go on, or we're all in that same boat. Like, what is this going to do to the industry, and how long is this going to go on, and yada yada yada. So we didn't bring her on, and it wasn't until recently that we started doing some additional coaching, strategizing, and figuring out it's not so much an assistant that we needed, but we really need somebody to take all these bigger ideas we have with no time for the implementation piece, to come in and take over that part of our business, so we can say, here are projects and things we want to work on and need to be, in place to do in the next 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, whatever it is. So looking back a year ago, she would have been perfect for that role. So for the longest time, I kind of sat there like, man, it actually worked out not hiring her. And here we are now looking for this person to fit this role that person would have been absolutely perfect for. And I'll say it, you said it, it was 100% fear-based for us as well.
Yeah.
And, you don't grow, and you don't grow your business or wealth or other people's business and wealth out of fear.
No, you can't operate out of that place. And this is why we're having this conversation, because we're looking back, and these are things we should have done a year ago, but we didn't. And the reason why we didn't do any of these things a year ago is because we were kind of stuck in fear land.
Yep.
It's not good.
Which is never good. It's not good for business. It's not good for relationships. It's not good for anything. And so it's a lesson for us, because here we are a year later, same boat, finally doing what we should have done a year ago. And it's how many projects did we not get done? How
much opportunity did we miss?
100%. Right? A ton.
Having a business coach or a strategist, somebody to actually sit down with you and say, okay, here's what you want to go. Here's the next couple of steps that you need to take, and then actually help you implement those things. Somebody that's an actual, not just a strategist, but somebody that can help you, implement them, do them.
Yep.
Would be so incredible. Now, somebody that's like that in your business, what does somebody like that cost? Is it somebody that you would bring in and just pay them just for like a period of time to start getting things rolling, or is it somebody that you bring on full time? It's a constant role of implementation.
Yeah, it's constant, because as you grow, eventually they're creating categories of like, hey, this part of the business, we now need to bring somebody else in.
Got
and
it.
they build out that role for that person, and you really actually let them find that person, hire that person, train that person. So eventually this person kind of sheds themselves of all these roles that they're taking on for you at the start, and really helping form all those categories in your business and those departments. And eventually you have this person that understands your entire business.
Yeah.
Essentially you communicate with them and they run the rest of your business.
So you're basically talking at that point, you're talking about an operator,
somebody where you can step out of production, like you were talking about. And as far as compensation, I mean, I don't think there's any one way to do it. I think to start, I think a base and bonus is the way to go. But I think at some point they become a percentage partnership once the company or, the team or whatever it is, the margin, once it's at a point where it's nice and fat and there's a lot of meat on the bone, at that point they have to benefit as you benefit.
I totally agree. I think that's the best way to do it too. Yeah. I've actually listened to podcasts of, really good business coaches and, bringing on an operator for other industries. And it's always, a decent base salary, but you tie them to, you got to you have to have them in a position where they have a vested interest in making sure that the things they're implementing will work, because the salary is good, but the bonuses are going to be a lot better once the things I implement work. So you have to tie them to the profit as well.
Yeah, you have to. And because they're going to tire sometimes, or they're going to lack motivation, but but to know that, hey, we get through this and we get this big project done, and it's going to open up so much more opportunity that we're all going to benefit from. And that person, you really don't want to be, the only thing I'd say is, and this is kind of what we've been told, you don't want this person to be the person who wants to sell. This isn't a salesperson. This is the person that is, how does the watch work? Let me open it up and dissect it and see how this thing works so I can rebuild it. Like, they don't want to go sell it. They want to build it. Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly like having a good assistant. I mean, a good assistant isn't hoping to, they're not hoping to sell real estate.
Right.
They want to help you sell real estate, and they
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So it's important to hire people that, are right for the job in that regard. Yeah. We are very big on the DISC test. It's nice to see it really is important to see where people's personalities are, and just kind of how they what kind of tasks they won't tire from. So I'm an I, which is a storyteller, and I'm a D, which means I like to also just cut to the chase. My wife Lorianne, she is definitely a high D, and then her second one is an I, so we complement each other very well. So neither one of us are an S or a C. Your S's and your C's are people that just love the paperwork and they love doing the process, so anyway, there's a lot of tools out there to help with that. But
that's a good one. It's never failed. Anybody I've ever had take it, even if it's just for fun, they're like, that's totally me.
It is. I've actually taken it 4 times, and every time I'm just brutally honest. And I tried. Sometimes I no matter how I try, it still nails me every time. I'm an I. I can't get away from it. That is if I'm honest with it,
right.
I'm an I every time. And then a close second is my D. So
I'm going to do it again after we get done. Every time I've ever taken it, I'm a high D with some I.
Yep. Yeah. You're exactly like Lorianne. So let's go to the fourth one. The fourth one you brought up was really, really good. It was an aha moment for me. And that is number 4 was networking with the big players. So this is another thing we should have been doing a year ago. I mean, and continuing on as well throughout the year, but networking with big players. So when you said this, give the audience a sense of what you really mean by this.
Well, I'm going to start with something you said when we were backstage that you had heard from a real estate coach, and that is in the next like 12 or so months, it's kind of anticipated that like 3/4 or more of transactions are going to have some form of referral fee tied to them. And what that means is you have some form of, you can call it a corporate partnership, or, you have, whether like when you and I used to work REO, it was, we knew like, oh, okay, your referral was they kept part of the commission and you got a reduced commission, but we knew this account was good for X amount of deals this year.
Yes.
And so you could build a model around that. And it's interesting to watch the industry now with the Zillows and Open Doors and OfferPads and all these companies. They came in initially with the idea of we're just going to buy houses directly, right? And then they figured out real quick that consumers still want normal transactions. So a lot of them are now, but they've also figured out consumers have warmed up to the idea of selling a house directly. So they now have to offer both. And so there's a lot of relationships to be had for agents where, like your team with Zillow, we were talking about, that has the potential in the next year to be a $50 million plus account.
Yeah.
For you.
Easily, yeah.
If not more. I might be very conservative on that number, but it becomes easier as a business owner to say, well, I need to model a Zillow model just for that category of my business. Here's how I profit. Here's how my team members profit. With moratoriums coming to an end at some point, we will not see anything like we saw in 2008 in terms of foreclosures or REO business, but there will be a good uptick on that. I know that
there will be. Oh yeah.
2 companies I'm still in with, and what got me thinking on this one was I felt kind of fortunate that one of them reached out to me and was like, hey, I noticed you need to update some of your profile and, this, that, and the other. And I never would have even thought to have done it.
Yeah.
Then he was sharing with me just kind of what they're waiting for. And, they know once these lift. And so, there's going to be, properties that come down the pipeline. So it got me thinking, oh man, this is an account where I can probably account for couple deals a month once it starts flowing.
Yep.
Why have I not been maintaining those relationships I used to have? So, this is very different from your SOI or your past clients. This is a very structured, these big corporations are very structured. So it's good for us in a business where we're all independent contractors and kind of run around and do whatever we want, however we want. These type of relationships are great for us. They teach structure. They also teach us something that a lot of other businesses do, which is kind of like positioning and marketing and fighting for contracts, right? And it can be really rewarding. So if I were to look back a year ago, I should have, while a lot of these companies were slow, when COVID hit, I should have spent a lot more time really nurturing those, because now as they're all starting to kind of gain momentum, we're already behind the 8 ball on it, right? Not to say we won't do business with them, but we could have put ourselves in a much better position to capitalize on a lot more and have a much better process in place so that when they give us business versus another agent, we outshine them.
Right. We're outperforming them. One thing I've always appreciated about you, and this has been from the very beginning when I got into this business, it was right before the big REO boom. And you had done such a good job of building really good relationships with asset management companies and Countrywide at the time, and some other, eventually B of A, and I understand you probably feel like, man, over the last year I should have been building these relationships and strengthening them, but I know you still have a lot of good relationships with them. And there's probably a lot of people listening that will either catch this on a podcast or maybe they're watching it on YouTube, or maybe they're watching it live on a repeat or something like that on Facebook. But I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that would love to learn how to get a piece of that REO business when it starts to come back. And I think they should reach out to you. In fact, I'm dropping your contact information right now.
It's been a while since I've had those conversations, but always open to sharing.
Definitely. Jason is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the REO scene, and definitely someone that you should talk to if you want to, get your foot in the door of that kind of thing. You might be thinking, oh, it's a little early right now because that's, we don't have any REOs, but it's never too early. I mean, we're already wishing that we did some of that a year ago, and so it's not too late. You should have started sooner, but Jason can get you caught up on that stuff. But anyway, well, I have to say, I really enjoyed this kind of a looser chit chat vibe that we did today. Because it
was fun.
We a lot of times on these shows we dive really deep and really give 29 reasons you should never do this, or 7 ways to be successful in this area, that area. But this was just kind of a nice eye opener for us to just chit chat about. And I hope those of you who have been with us throughout this show can at least relate to some of it and grab onto some of it. Hopefully there's at least a couple of nuggets that you can go, yeah, I should be doing that, or I should have been doing that.
Yep.
One thing, if I can encourage everyone, and that is, don't operate your business from a place of fear. No matter what, just don't. And I'm guilty of it. Last year at this time, I was a little freaking out about things. And now I look at where we're at and how things have developed, and I'm just like, why did I do that? So, yeah.
Same here.
Anyway.
But no, that's good advice. And I will say, I would like to see if other people want, or like, hey, I have one or two of those. I would love to see, maybe make a comment or shoot us an email. I'm sure everybody has their one or two item where it's like, man, I should have done this last year. So, it might help us when we hit that, bump in the road where it's like, oh yeah, hey, so-and-so said they were kind of there and, they pushed past it. But feel free to, I guess, share with us.
Yeah, we're easy to reach. I mean, whether it's Facebook, through the podcast, or even YouTube, we're very, very easy to get a hold of. So don't be a stranger. We'll see you in about 7 days. Thanks so much for being here. Ciao.